Hey, I gotta show you something. Back in 2021, I busted the standard fin box of my Fanatic Falcon Lightwind while windfoiling. I hit a tree branch I didn't see, and the result was a delaminated section of the hull and a fin box out of alignment. There's no repair shop in my area, so I decided to replace it myself with a foil-ready fin box I found online at CTEX Boards in Italy. Whether the need is to swap a standard fin box for a foil-ready version, or it is just to replace a damaged one, the process I went through is roughly the same. So here it is. No filming this time, just a slideshow, but follow along as I'm talking through the details. First, I make sure to identify the center line on both sides of the board. With a replacement fin box at hand, I'm drawing the outline of the new box on the board so I know where to cut. I then drill holes halfway through the board thickness on the four corners of the new box outline on both sides of the board. I'm trying my best to keep the drilling as plumb as possible. The holes at the four corners are now connected through the entire board thickness. With the jigsaw, I then connect the four corners on the whole side of the board with a cut following the new fin box outline. The jigsaw blade isn't long enough to cut the foam all the way, so I use an oscillating multi-tool with a straight down blade to finish the surgery. The old fin box is removed easily and the wall cavity is relatively straight. That fin box is not cracked, so I'm saving it just in case. It's time to check for the fit of the new fin box and adjust for squareness. After taping the area on both sides of the board, I attached the fin box with polyurethane glue. I spread a layer of Gorilla Glue on all four sides of the fin box and spray water in the board cavity to trigger foaming reaction and curing process. I installed a long fin in a new box to check for alignment. I then secure and adjust the fin box with a few wooden mixing sticks before the glue sets and tape the fin to the board to lock everything in position. Once the glue has cured, I shave off the excess glue and cut off the exposed mixing sticks. Notice how the fin box is slightly recessed by 2 to 3 mm from the surface of the board. This is important. It allows the lamination and the fin insert to sit flush with the existing surface of the board once the repair is completed. I then retape around the fin box to protect the cutouts from epoxy drips and spills. I also identify how far forward the delamination is going and how much I want the new lamination to extend on the hull. Extending the lamination on a foil-ready fin box is a good thing, as most of the forces and stress from riding a foil happens in front of the fin box. But for standard fin box replacement, it is not necessary to extend the fiberglass repair this far forward on the board. With an orbital sander and 60 grit sandpaper, I begin to remove the existing and delaminated fiberglass all the way to the foam. On the top side of the board, I remove the excess material of the new fin box to match the original board contour. I start with the oscillating multi-tool and I finish with the orbital sander to clean and even out the surfaces. Same as with the underside, I'm leaving room for the new lamination thickness on the top side as well. I make sure all surfaces are vacuumed and the hard surfaces are cleaned with denatured alcohol. Now I'm cutting the fiberglass pieces, and in this case, I use carbon fiber. About 3 or 4 layers per side plus the peel ply, which works great at smoothing out the surface and preventing almond blush. I use an epoxy resin from Greenlight Surfboard Supply and the necessary squeegee, resin roller and mixing cups from Fiberglass Supply of Fiberglass, Florida for those living in the US. With a squeegee, I wet the carbon fiber cloth with epoxy resin 1 layer at a time on a flat surface covered with a plastic film. I brush on a thin layer of epoxy on the repair and then apply the wetted carbon layers and roll them one at a time. This is a good way to match the strength of my lamination by controlling the amount of resin being used. For maximum strength, I want just enough resin to saturate the carbon cloth but not more. Once all my carbon layers are laminated, I top it all up with the peel ply. After the resin cures for 24 hours, I pull the peel ply off and then sand the surface with 120 grit to remove any high spots. I finish the lamination by fairing the surface with a small batch of epoxy resin and microballoon filler that I mix to a thick yogurt consistency. This fills both pinholes and the visible weaving texture from the carbon fiber cloth. Once the resin is fully cured, I sand down all the way to a smooth 400 grit. You'll notice that the lamination has completely blocked up the Finbox opening. So it's time to open it with a trim router equipped with a laminate trimmer bit. It works great for the sides, but at the ends, the angles of the Finbox prevent the router from trimming the lamination flush to the box. This is when I'm using a set of files to refine the opening to specs. Finally, the necessary check for fit with a couple of fins. I want a professional looking repair, so I first mask the surface against overspray. I use a white and black 2K Rust-Oleum satin spray paint I got from the hardware store. I spray 2 or 3 thin and even coats of paint. I let them dry for a week before I lightly wet sand the surface with a 800 grit sandpaper to even out the surface texture. To finish the repair, I found online the blueprint of the fin insert with dimensions. In this case, it's a deep turtle. The purpose is to build a quick jig so I can accurately drill 2 holes through the deck for the fin screws. It's made of plywood scraps, and since I don't have a drill press, I have to make this jig in pieces so I can leave 2 empty channels to serve as guides for the drill bit. I finished the jig with a small piece of plywood that I screwed at the base to control how deep the jig sits inside the Finbox. I then insert the completed jig in the Finbox and I drill the 2 screw holes through the deck of the board without having to guess the correct angle. So here it is. The board is repaired and ready for fin and foil. I hope this video is useful to someone out there. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.